If you fit into that dress, I'll marry you." The Arab billionaire's voice cut sharp through the air, dripping with mockery. Then the laughter erupted. Sharp and glittering, Maya stood beside her cleaning cart, her gray uniform soaked with sweat from rushing between tables. But none of that mattered, because her eyes wide, dark, quietly dreaming were fixed on the dress. The red dress in question hung beneath a spotlight in the center of the ballroom, gleaming like a challenge. It was a size 2 couture gown, sharp-shouldered, wasp-waisted, and made to be worn, not by a woman, but by an ideal. It was the kind of dress Maya used to sketch in the margins of her notebooks at Parsons before life forced her to trade pencils for mops. Her breath hitched as she stared, longing, admiration, a spark of a dream she thought was long gone. And that was when Zahir al-Mansouri noticed her. Zahir al-Mansouri grinned broadly, one hand still raised toward the dress, the other holding a crystal flute. At 44, the Arab oil magnate was as famous for his staggering wealth as he was for his cruelty disguised as charm. He lifted his champagne glass, pointing it toward Maya as though she were a stain he wanted removed. "Yes, you," he said, grinning. "If you fit into that dress, I'll marry you on the spot." Maya blinked, caught between humiliation and disbelief. Her cheeks burned. She lowered her head instinctively, wishing she could shrink into the floor. But she couldn't look away from the dress, not yet. It represented everything she wanted and everything she'd lost. "Oh, look at her," someone giggled nearby. "She's actually imagining it." "Careful, Maya," another voice chimed in mockingly. "Don't pass out before you say I do." Zahir strutted closer, his Gutra scarf swaying behind him like a banner. His smile widened as he reached her. "I'm serious. Let's draw up a contract right now." Maya tightened her grip on the cart. "Sir, I'm just—" Before she could finish, a woman in a gold-sequined gown stumbled forward, accidentally, nudged by someone behind her. Wine sloshed from her glass and splattered across Maya's chest. The room howled with delight. "Oh my God," the woman squealed. "Oops." The cold liquid soaked into Maya's uniform instantly. She stiffened, mortified, but forced herself to stay still. She had endured worse. But then someone else, emboldened by the spectacle, lifted a half-full flute of champagne. "Cheers to the future bride." The golden liquid flew toward her before she could react. The glass slipped from his hand, clipping the side of her forehead with a sharp edge, before shattering on the floor. The laughter died for a heartbeat. A thin line of blood slid down her temple. Maya pressed her fingers to the wound, more stunned than hurt. "Oh, come on," the man muttered, waving his hand dismissively. "She'll live." Laughter erupted again, bigger, crueler, ravenous. Zahir chuckled, shaking his head. "You see? This is why jokes shouldn't be taken seriously." Maya felt something hot rise through her: shame, anger, the sting of every humiliation she had swallowed since she was 19. She backed away, breath trembling. "Hey," Zahir called after her, "don't leave. The offer still stands. Fit into that dress in 30 days, and I'll walk you down the aisle myself." More applause, more mocking cheers. Maya didn't turn back. She pushed her cart through the double doors into the service corridor. The soundproof walls swallowed the vicious laughter instantly, leaving her alone with the roar of her heartbeat. She leaned against the wall, the cold tile steadying her as she touched her forehead again. Her fingertips came away red. She stared at them. Blood always had a way of sharpening reality. Her body shook not from pain, but from the humiliation she had tried so hard all her life to outrun. Then, slowly, the trembling stopped. Her jaw clenched, her breath steadied. She wiped the blood from her face with the back of her sleeve, straightened her posture, and whispered to herself, "No more hiding." The train ride to Newark felt longer than usual. Maya pressed an icy-cold water bottle to her forehead, the faint cut throbbing beneath her skin. She kept replaying the scene in her mind, the laughter, the wine dripping down her uniform, the dress glowing like a taunt she could never reach. But beneath the humiliation, something else simmered, something she hadn't felt in years. Risolve. Her apartment greeted her with silence when she arrived. The heater rattled, and the dim lamp in the living room cast a soft circle of light. She set her keys down quietly and peeked into the bedroom. Aria lay on her side, curled beneath a blanket, her thin arms motionless. The monitors beside her blinked with steady green lights. Maya watched her sister for a long moment. Everything she had sacrificed, school, dreams, a future, had been for the sleeping girl in that bed. She could survive a cut. She could survive mockery. She had survived worse. She moved to the kitchen, pulled out her battered laptop, and sat at the small table. Her hands hovered over the keyboard before she began typing. Zahir al-Mansouri scandal. The screen flooded with headlines, allegations, interviews, shiny facades, and hidden rot. Then she saw it. The video, the entire ballroom moment, captured from 3 angles, uploaded, shared, dissected. She clicked on it. Her own face appeared, wide-eyed, wounded, humiliated, then struck, then drenched. The comments rolled fast. "This is disgusting. Who treats people like this? Someone find her. She needs support. That man should be ashamed." Maya swallowed hard. Her shame turned into heat. Her heat turned into ignition. She opened a blank page in her old notebook, the one filled with fashion sketches from another life, and wrote, "Fit into the dress. Expose the truth. Stand up. For me. For Arya. For every woman like us." She closed the notebook softly, as if sealing a promise. Then she whispered, her voice quiet but unbreakable, "I'm going to make him regret knowing my name." Outside her window, dawn was beginning to rise over Newark, thin, pale, determined. Just like her. If Maya's story moved you, tap like and comment where you're watching from. You might be surprised who's watching along with you. Maya didn't sleep that night. She sat hunched at the small kitchen table, knees tucked beneath her in a worn hoodie, sipping slowly from a chipped mug of black coffee that had long gone cold. Her laptop glowed faintly in the dark room, illuminating the determination settling in her eyes like dust after a storm. On the screen, Zahir al-Mansouri's smug face beamed in countless photos, handshakes with politicians, ribbon cuttings, charity galas where he played the gracious benefactor. She stared at him, the man who had humiliated her in front of 200 people and millions more online. Her fingers itched to claw through the screen. But she didn't. Not yet. Her movements were careful now, deliberate. She clicked open a tab she hadn't touched in years, her old blog, Needle and Spine. It had been a student project once, a portfolio of sketches and thoughts from her time at Parsons School of Design. The last entry was dated 6 years ago. It read, "Taking a break. Life comes first. Though," she whispered, "I'm done putting my life second." Down the hall, Arya coughed lightly in her sleep, and Maya's attention snapped toward the bedroom. She padded softly to the doorway. The girl lay curled beneath a fleece blanket, her breathing shallow but steady, her wheelchair parked beside the bed like a faithful guard dog. Maya gently tucked the blanket tighter around her. "I'm going to give you more," she said softly. "More than this." By 4:45 a.m., Maya was dressed in leggings, an oversized sweatshirt, and old running shoes. She tied her curls back tightly and stepped out into the cold Newark morning, the wind slicing at her cheeks like tiny razors. The sidewalks were slick with frost. Her breath puffed in clouds as she walked past shuttered bodegas and corner stores just beginning to stir. At 5:04 a.m., she stood in front of a battered storefront gym called Ironbound Strength. The lights were already on. Inside, the smell of sweat, metal, and liniment hit her like a memory. This place had once been her sanctuary back when she was still trying to hold her life together. She hadn't stepped foot inside in 3 years. The door creaked open. "Maya?" Clara Gonzalez stood with a clipboard in one hand and a thermos in the other. Her silver-streaked hair was pulled back in a tight bun, her frame short but solid as a brick wall. Her eyes, sharp and kind, scanned Maya up and down with the warmth of recognition and concern. "I'll be damned," Clara said. "You're really here." "I need to fit into a dress," Maya replied, voice low but firm. Clara raised an eyebrow. "Is that right?" Maya hesitated. "He said I couldn't." The whole world laughed. Clara didn't need more. She stepped aside. "Well then," she said, gesturing toward the squat rack. "Let's shut them up." The gym was quiet at that hour, just the low hum of fluorescent lights and the rhythmic clanking of metal as Clara led her through stretches, then basic drills, lunges, planks, resistance bands. Maya's body screamed in protest. Her muscles, dormant and neglected, trembled by the third set. But she didn't stop. Each push-up became a name. Each squat, a memory. The glass, the laughter, the blood on her temple. "Keep going," Clara said gently when Maya's arms shook. "Not for them, for you." At the end of the session, Maya collapsed onto the mat, sweat glistening on her forehead. Her chest heaved as she looked up at the ceiling, the old pipes snaking like veins overhead. Clara sat beside her, handing over a water bottle. "You got 30 days?" 90, Maya said, voice hoarse. "But 30 for the dress." Clara nodded slowly, rubbing her hands together. "All right then. You give me 30 days. No skipping. No excuses, and I'll get you into that damn dress. But you gotta follow me like I'm the devil with a whistle." Maya let out a breathless laugh for the first time in days. "Deal." They shook on it. Later that morning, after a cold shower and a protein bar Clara forced on her, Maya headed to work at the hotel. She wore a bandage on her temple and walked with a limp in her left thigh, but her spine was straighter than it had been in years. Inside the staff locker room, two housekeepers, Anna and Teresa, eyed her with caution. "You okay?" Anna asked. Maya nodded, but didn't explain. She changed in silence, then rolled out her cart. As she pushed it down the hallway, she passed the ballroom from the night before. The red dress had been removed, the spotlights gone, the glitter swept away, but Maya stopped anyway, resting a hand on the doorframe. She whispered, "I'm coming back." That night, she returned to her laptop. She didn't check social media. Instead, she opened an old design file, a draft from her student days. The design was raw, unfinished, a dress with sharp shoulders, a defiant neckline, and a crimson skirt that looked like it had been set on fire. She titled the file, Reclamation. Then she opened another browser window. Search, Zahir Al-Mansouri controversy. The results flooded in again. She ignored the glitzy headlines this time. She scrolled deeper, past the interviews, past the Forbes lists. And then, like a needle in fabric, something caught. A comment thread on a forgotten forum. Former employee. Fired without cause. No. NDA. He's worse than they say. She bookmarked it. Then another. Whistleblower. HR cover-up. Silence wasn't cheap. She copied it, saved it. A plan began to form, not out of revenge, but survival. She wasn't just going to fit into the dress. She was going to make the world see who Zahir really was. And when they did, no amount of money, champagne, or charm could save him. She looked at the mirror in the hallway before bed. "I'm not cleaning up after men like him anymore." Then she turned off the light. The next morning, Clara handed Maya a laminated training schedule. It was color-coded, neatly broken into 4-week segments, with daily workouts, rest intervals, and weekly goal checkpoints. Clara didn't just coach bodies, she commanded discipline. "No skipping days," she said as Maya stared at the intimidating chart. "This isn't about a dress. This is war prep." Maya folded the schedule and tucked it into her bag. "I'm in." Clara crossed her arms. "And no starving yourself either. I know what desperation smells like, Maya. You need strength, not weakness, in a size 2 shell." Maya met her eyes firm. "I won't cut corners." Clara softened slightly. "Good, because I don't train people to look pretty. I train people to survive." The days that followed were brutal. Every morning at 5 a.m., Maya reported to the gym before the sun rose over Newark. Clara made her do drills that torched her legs and burned her lungs. Rows of push-ups, hill sprints on the treadmill, squat circuits with shaking knees. Maya's uniform started clinging tighter by the 3rd day, her movements more purposeful. The mirror didn't lie, she was changing. Not just physically. Something sharper gleamed in her eyes now. Each morning after gym, she returned home, helped Arya with her breakfast, reviewed her medications, and sat with her for 20 quiet minutes before leaving again for her shift. That time, those few moments of silence with Arya became a sacred ritual. It grounded her, reminded her why she started. At work, Maya kept her head down. No one dared mention the gala. Rumors swirled through the hotel staff that she was suing Zahir, that she'd been fired and rehired, that she was secretly a model. Maya said nothing. She worked with new precision, cleaned floors as if scrubbing away shame, wiped windows until she could see her own reflection again and hold it. Each night, when Arya went to sleep, Maya returned to the glow of her laptop. She started compiling a list: simple, stark, known Zahir properties, reported incidents, anonymous threads, charities he's connected to, known business partners, lawsuits filed and settled. She dug into articles in both English and Arabic, used online translators, scoured staff forums, and LinkedIn alumni pages. The deeper she searched, the more patterns she saw. Zahir's reputation wasn't just built on oil and charisma, it was propped up by intimidation and money. There were whispers of NDAs, a former intern who had suddenly dropped out of law school, a woman who'd vanished from the company's website after filing a complaint. The stories were disconnected, scattered, dismissed in the press. But Maya didn't need confirmation. She knew the language of cover-ups. She had felt it firsthand in her own past. She hadn't told Clara the whole story yet about Parsons, about why she disappeared just months before graduation, about Professor Lawrence, who said her designs were too ambitious, then later tried to kiss her in an empty studio. When she rejected him, her final project mysteriously went missing, and her scholarship was quietly revoked. She had no legal recourse. No one believed a janitor's daughter from Newark over a white tenured professor with gallery connections. She buried it, like all the other indignities. Until now. Now, those fragments weren't dead memories. They were fuel. One night, Clara found her slumped at a bench in the gym after a punishing leg workout, drenched in sweat. Rough day? Maya didn't answer at first. Then she whispered, "I want to destroy him." Clara raised an eyebrow. Zahir? Yes, not with fists, with facts. Clara sat beside her and unscrewed the top of her thermos, handing Maya some lukewarm tea. "Then you better build a foundation before you burn down the house." Maya looked at her. "You believe me? I've seen too many women come through my doors carrying bruises that didn't show. You don't have to convince me. You just need to be ready for what happens when you pull the thread." Maya nodded. "I will be." "Then promise me something," Clara said, her voice quieter now. "When this ends, and you win, you don't disappear again. You finish what you started. The dream, the dresses." Maya stared at her. "You remember my sketches? I don't forget talent." They sat in silence a moment longer. Then Maya held out her hand. "Deal." They shook on it. Back home that night, Maya pulled out an old sketchbook from the bottom of her closet. The pages smelled of graphite and time. She flipped to a blank one and began drawing, not for the first time in years, but for the first time without fear. She drew a woman in a red dress. Not the original one from the gala, not the glittering, size 2 fantasy, but one molded by fire and purpose. The fabric didn't float. It stood. The lines were sharp. The neckline was armor. The hem sliced the air like a blade. This wasn't a dress for admiration. It was a declaration. She titled it, "The Reckoning." Then she flipped to a new page and kept drawing. And for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel tired. She felt alive. By the second week, Maya's body ached in places she didn't know could ache. Her mornings began in darkness. Her nights ended with fire in her thighs, blisters on her palms, and protein shakes she forced down like medicine. But she didn't complain. Each drop of sweat, each sore muscle reminded her that she was taking control of her body. Her story. Her name. What surprised her wasn't the pain. It was how much clarity came with it. The harder she pushed herself physically, the sharper her thoughts became. At 5 a.m. each morning, she ran drills with Clara. By 7, she was home, feeding Arya eggs and toast, adjusting her meds, and setting up the TV with her favorite music documentaries. Then it was straight to work at the hotel. Her world was a rotating cycle of discipline. But in the quiet spaces on train rides, in locker rooms, in the staff cafeteria, Maya hunted. Her eyes weren't just open anymore. They were focused. She started noticing how power moved in silence. She watched managers walk past janitorial staff without greeting them. Watched men in suits touch the backs of female interns like they owned them. Watched concierges pretend not to see a busboy flinch when a guest barked in his face. The same patterns, different scale. People like Zahir didn't operate in shadows, they operated in plain sight, protected by laughter, by wealth, by the uncomfortable silence of those afraid to speak. Maya knew that silence. She'd lived in it for years. That morning, she found herself in the executive conference room on the top floor, wiping down crystal glasses after a business brunch. A folder had been left behind, a branded binder with Zahir Al-Mansouri's company logo. Her pulse quickened. She scanned the room. Empty. The cleaning crew wouldn't come for another 10 minutes. Hands shaking slightly, she opened the binder. Inside were pages of expense reports, event budgets, and 2 business cards tucked in the pocket. One from a high-end security firm, the other from a woman named Yara Mansour, listed as Executive Legal Liaison. Maya stared at the name. She had seen it before. The night after the gala, while combing through buried threads on employee forums, she had come across a post from someone claiming to be a former executive assistant who settled out of court after repeated harassment and retaliation. That person had signed their comment, YM. Maya snapped a photo of the business card, then carefully closed the binder and returned it to the table. That night, after dinner with Arya now able to grip a spoon again thanks to regular therapy, Maya sat down with her laptop. She searched Yara Mansour plus Aloque Mansouri Group. Nothing recent, but under archived news, she found a single article from 3 years ago. Executive Legal Liaison resigns citing health concerns. No further details, no interviews, just a smiling photo of a woman in her early 30s with jet black hair and tired eyes. Maya closed her laptop, heart thudding. She pulled out her notebook and wrote, Yara Mansour. Key to unraveling the thread. The next morning, Clara noticed Maya was quieter than usual. You're overthinking again, she said, pushing a weighted sled toward her. That face says spreadsheet murder. Maya let out a breath. Do you think people can hide the worst of themselves forever? Clara didn't hesitate. They try, but truth is like mold. It grows in the dark, and eventually, the stink gets out. No. After their workout, Maya asked, you ever met someone who looked perfect but gave you a bad feeling? Clara stopped wiping down the dumbbells. Yeah, married him. Maya blinked, caught off guard. Clara smirked. Didn't last. But yeah, I've met men who shine in public and rot in private. You learn to spot the cracks. Maya nodded slowly. I think I found one. One. Later that afternoon, during her 15-minute break, she stood in the hotel courtyard, staring at the number scribbled from Yara's card. Her phone trembled in her hand. Just dial it. Her thumb hovered over the green button, but doubt crept in. Would Yara even want to talk? What if this reopened something she worked hard to bury? But then Maya thought of the glass shattering on her forehead. She hit call. It rang twice. Then, this is Yara. Maya swallowed hard. Hi. I'm sorry to call out of the blue. My name is Maya Williams. I think you might have seen a video. A woman. A red dress. A joke that wasn't one. There was a pause. Then Yara said softly, I've seen it. You're her. Maya's voice faltered. I need to talk. About him. Silence again. Long. Then. Tomorrow. 6 p.m. Cafe Giona in Queens. Come alone. I need to look you in the eye before I tell you what I know. The call ended. Maya stood there, phone pressed to her chest, heart hammering. She was no longer just chasing her dignity. She was stepping into a story far bigger than herself. Cafe Giona was tucked on the corner of 34th Avenue and 40th Street in Astoria, a modest, family-run place with mismatched chairs, Greek coffee strong enough to startle your ancestors, and a glass display case that never seemed to have the same pastries twice. It was the kind of spot New Yorkers went to disappear not because it was hidden, but because it was familiar. And familiarity, in a city that never sleeps, was its own form of camouflage. Maya arrived 15 minutes early. Her hands were cold despite her gloves, and her breath came short puffs in the November air. She'd worn her simplest coat, her hair tied back tightly. No makeup. She didn't want to look like someone trying to impress or persuade. She wanted to look honest. Because she was. She ordered chamomile tea and found a seat near the window. her back to the wall so she could see the door. Clara had offered to come, but Maya refused. Yara had said alone, and Maya respected that. Some truths could only be shared woman to woman, with no audience but pain. At 6:07, the door opened. Yara Mansour stepped in. She was taller than she looked in her press photos, with a graceful neck, posture that screamed education, and eyes that had clearly run out of tears years ago. She wore a camel-colored coat and a navy headscarf that framed her face elegantly. She scanned the room once, spotted Maya, and walked over without hesitation. "You look like someone who doesn't get nervous easily," Yara said as she sat her day. "I used to," Maya replied. Yara raised an eyebrow, impressed, and nodded toward the counter. "I'll grab coffee. Don't go anywhere." She returned with a black coffee and a biscotti, which she broke in half and placed on a napkin between them. A peace offering of sorts. Maya didn't touch it. "I wasn't sure you'd actually call," Yara said, stirring her drink without looking up. "I wasn't sure you'd answer. That makes two of us." There was a long silence. Yara sipped. Maya watched. Finally, Maya said, "I saw your name on a business card, left behind at the hotel." Yara nodded slowly, not surprised. "I didn't think anyone remembered me." "I did," Maya said. "Or at least I remembered the initials, YM. I found your post anonymous, but honest." Yara's eyes flicked to hers. "That post was supposed to disappear. I deleted it years ago. It was archived on a mirror forum. I copied it." Yara exhaled, closed her eyes briefly. "I suppose that means it's really time." She set her coffee down and folded her hands. Zahir al-Mansouri is not a man who simply crosses lines. He erases them. He makes you feel like you're the one who drew them wrong. Maya stayed quiet. Let her speak. "I worked for him for almost 6 years. I was smart, fluent in 3 languages, legally trained in London. He said I reminded him of his sister. I took it as a compliment." Her mouth tightened, until I realized he meant it literally. I was a mirror he wanted to control. She paused. Maya didn't interrupt. "It started with long work dinners, then hand on my back, then gifts, then things he asked me to do unofficially. Cover stories, track reports, forward emails." "Ugh. You complied?" Maya asked gently. "At first, I thought it was corporate games. Everyone at that level plays them. But then there was an incident, a young contractor he flew in for an international development pitch. She left the hotel crying. I tried to document it. To help her." Yara swallowed. That was when he turned. Maya felt a chill crawl up her arms. "He made my life a silent war. Emails disappeared. My reviews plummeted. He assigned me travel shifts that made no sense. I became difficult to manage. I was asked to resign for health reasons after my doctor signed off on stress leave. And the lawsuit? I filed it in secret. It didn't go far. Settlement. NDA. Money I didn't even use. It sat in an account I don't touch. Guilt, money." Yara looked Maya directly in the eye. "Why did you call me?" Maya hesitated. "Because I think he's done this to more than just you, and I want to stop him." Yara blinked. "You're serious." "Dead serious." The air between them shifted. Something past recognition, perhaps, of a shared fracture. "I'm not the only one," Yara said softly. "There are others. I've kept track." She reached into her bag and pulled out a worn leather planner. Inside was a folded list. 5 names. All women. "He keeps records," Yara said. "Not just of business. Of people. He has files, blackmail, leverage, bargaining chips. He never keeps them digitally for long, but he prints everything, keeps backups. I only ever saw one flash drive once he took it to his lawyer's apartment. Not the office. Personal. Private." Maya leaned forward. "Do you know where?" Yara nodded. "Upper West Side, Riverside Drive. His lawyer travels every December for a month. He used to brag about it, no loose ends at home." Maya's pulse quickened. "If I could find those files," she began. "You'd need help," Yara finished. "And luck. And timing." Maya folded the list gently and tucked it into her coat. "If I do this, I'm not just doing it for me." "I know," Yara said. "I can see it." Yara stood. "I'm going to give you a number. His old driver, Jamal. He saw too much. Zahir fired him last spring. He might still be angry enough to talk. She scribbled a number on a receipt and handed it over. And Maya? Yes? You're not just brave, you're dangerous. And that's what he's never seen coming. The phone number Yara had given her weighed heavy in Maya's coat pocket all the way home. It wasn't just ink on paper, it was a potential crack in the stone wall that Zahir had built around himself for over a decade. Maya sat at the kitchen table, Arya's soft breathing drifting from the next room, and stared at the number scribbled on the back of the cafe receipt. Jamal, former driver, 8 years in Zahir's inner circle. Clara had once said, "If you want to take down a man like that, you don't go through the front door. You find the people who used to hold his keys." Maya took a breath and dialed. It rang longer than she expected. "Yeah?" A tired voice answered, raspy with age and suspicion. "Hi, is this Jamal?" Maya asked, her voice steady, careful. "Who's asking?" "My name is Maya Williams. I was given your number by someone you used to work with, Yara Mansour." There was a pause. Then, "Go on. I think you know why I'm calling." Another pause, then a low, bitter laugh. "You're the girl from the video, the one with the dress." Maya closed her eyes. "Yes. You bled," he said, as if it meant something deeper. "And you didn't scream." "No," she said quietly. "I didn't." A sigh. "Meet me tomorrow, Sunset Park. There's a bench near the library. Come alone." The line went dead. The next day, the sun hung low over Brooklyn, casting a warm golden hue across the city that did little to soothe Maya's nerves. Sunset Park was busy, but not crowded families walking dogs, children kicking soccer balls between benches. She found the spot easily. Jamal was already there, mid-50s, salt and pepper beard, hands that looked like they'd worked too many jobs too long. He wore a wool cap and a heavy brown coat. His eyes were sunken, but sharp. "You came," he said without looking at her. "I had to." He gestured to the seat beside him. "Sit." Maya obeyed. A moment passed before either spoke. "She was 23, Jamal said finally. "My daughter." Maya turned to look at him, heart dropping. "She worked in Zahir's office. Bright. Smarter than me or her mother ever were. First in the family to finish college." His voice cracked. "She loved that job. Thought it was her ticket out of this city." "What happened?" Jamal rubbed his hands together. "He happened, subtle at first. Compliments, extra hours, business dinners. Then one night, she said he tried to close the deal. When she refused, he told her she was ungrateful. The next week, she was fired for breach of confidentiality. 2 days later, rumors started: drugs, theft, sleeping her way through promotions. She couldn't get another job. Couldn't even get interviews. Maya felt her throat tighten. "She sleeps most of the day now," Jamal said softly. "Won't eat unless I sit beside her. That man didn't just ruin her job, he took her spirit." "I'm sorry," Maya whispered. "I really am." He looked at her then, full on. "You want to take him down?" "Yes," Maya said. "Not for fame, not for money. I want people to see him for what he really is." Jamal nodded once, slowly. "He's careful. Always has been. Never emails from his own account. Never keeps digital files unless encrypted. But he doesn't trust the cloud. He keeps physical backups." "Yara mentioned that," Maya said. "Said they were with his lawyer." Jamal smirked. "I know the place. Old brownstone off Riverside Drive. I dropped him there dozens of times. Fancy. Man's fortress. Can we get in?" "Not easily, but I know where the key is hidden." Maya blinked. "You're serious? I've been waiting a long time for someone with fire and nothing left to lose. You're the first who didn't flinch." He reached into his coat and pulled out a napkin with a hand-drawn map. "This is the alley entrance. Keys in the third planter on the right. He keeps everything in a file cabinet in the second-floor study. Locked, but not alarmed." Maya stared at the drawing, her mind racing. "Why are you helping me?" Jamal's gaze turned back to the park. "Because you didn't scream, and because if I don't help you, he'll hurt someone else's daughter next." Back in Newark that night, Maya paced the kitchen while Arya slept. Her nerves were wired tight, her thoughts tumbling like pages in a windstorm. She had evidence of a pattern now, 2 voices, 2 lives shattered. Same man. She needed more. So she called Yara. I met with Jamal, she said. I figured, Jada replied. He texted me, said you were the real deal. Can we talk to the others? There was a pause. You sure? I'm sure. An hour later, Yara sent her a group chat link. All 5 women. The ones on the list. First names only. No photos. Just pain. Abbreviated. Julia, Nancy, Samira, Layla, Yara. One by one, they introduced themselves. Some had been interns, others assistants. One was a former hotel staffer like Maya. The stories flowed. In fragments. In rage. In silence. I signed an NDA, but if there's proof, I'll talk. I still have the emails. He said I was asking for it. I was 19. I told HR. They told me to consider my career. Maya typed slowly. I'm not trying to be a hero. I just want to make sure none of us ever have to bleed quietly again. A long pause. Then Julia replied, You're not alone anymore. The hotel's executive wing always had a different scent, polished walnut, expensive cologne, imported orchids blooming in vases no one dared touch. Maya usually passed through it quickly, blending into the walls, her cleaning cart rolling softly on plush carpets like a whisper. But today, her eyes were wide open. It had been 3 weeks since the gala. 3 weeks since Zahir Al-Mansouri humiliated her in front of the rich and the cruel. Since champagne soaked her chest and blood ran from her temple. Since 1,000 strangers watched it all on their phones, replaying her pain as if it were entertainment. She hadn't forgotten. She'd trained every morning before sunrise, her muscles now firm beneath the oversized uniform. She had studied Zahir's company like a hunter reading the movements of prey. She had collected stories from women with broken careers and broken spirits. She had planned. And now, opportunity had come unannounced. The executive ballroom on the top floor had hosted a private investor brunch that morning. Zahir had arrived late, smiling, shaking hands, flanked by his usual entourage. But in his rush to leave, he'd done something uncharacteristic. He left something behind. Maya saw it before anyone else, a sleek black tablet, sitting alone on a marble sideboard. She glanced around. The room was empty except for her. The staff wouldn't return for another 20 minutes. The weight of decision pressed down on her. Her hands trembled as she approached the tablet. No lock screen, no fingerprint ID, just open emails glowing against the dark glass. She couldn't believe it. Her breath caught. There on the screen, an email thread titled, Contingency Transfers, Secondary Accounts. She clicked it. A spreadsheet opened. Amounts. Names. Locations. Tens of thousands of dollars routed to various shell companies. And notes attached. Inspector paid. Legal counsel secure. Archive moved to UWS. She scrolled faster. Her pulse thundered. One thread was titled, Employee NDAs. Possible exposure risk. She tapped it. If she talks, we bury her. Discredit. Anonymous leak to tabloids. Confirmed contact with opposition. Suggest mental instability. It was Zahir's email address. The coldness of the language made her stomach turn. There were photos, 2 scanned images of contracts with women's names blacked out, outlines of settlements with confidentiality clauses, gag orders, even pre-drafted character assassinations. One document was a draft script for a potential reputation restoration interview he had planned with talking points, pre-written softball questions, and photos of him holding babies at a hospital gala. Disgusting. Maya's hand hovered over the tablet. She couldn't take it, but she could record it. She pulled her phone from her pocket and snapped picture after picture. Not all of them were clear. Her hands shook, but she got most of them. Then she turned the tablet off and placed it exactly where it had been. She checked the hallway again. Still clear. Heart pounding. She rolled her card out calmly, just as 2 junior event managers stepped in. Hey, Maya, one said, not even looking at her. Hey, she replied, keeping her face neutral. They passed her without a second glance. Invisible again, but she didn't feel invisible anymore. Back in her apartment, Maya backed up the photos to a hidden folder in the cloud and emailed encrypted copies to a new anonymous address Clara had helped her set up, redressproject@protonmail.com. Then she sat back and stared at her screen. She knew what she had wasn't enough to destroy Zahir publicly, but it was enough to draw a roadmap. And it pointed exactly where Yara and Jamal had said. The backup archive. The lawyer's apartment. She texted Yara, "I got something." He moved archives to UWS. Secondary accounts too. One doc said, "Archive moved to UWS, just like you thought." Yara replied instantly, "He's always used that apartment to keep his real files off the grid. No assistants, no digital trace. Just one man and a cabinet full of secrets." Then a second message followed. "You have 9 days until he leaves town. That's your window." Maya exhaled. 9 days. At 5 a.m. the next morning, Maya ran harder than she ever had. Clara had her doing sprints, weight sets, stair climbs. She didn't complain. She welcomed the burn. Clara noticed something in her: more focus, more control, but also a haunted look. "You found something, didn't you?" Clara asked between sets. Maya nodded. "Enough to know he's worse than we thought." Clara didn't push. She just said, "Then you need to be stronger than he expects." That night, Maya sat down to write in her sketchbook something she hadn't done in weeks. She flipped to a new page and drew a woman with a sweeping coat and a scarf billowing behind her like a banner. The fabric turned into a wall of words, paperwork, testimonies, torn NDAs. Behind her, in small silhouettes, stood other women watching, waiting, believing. She labeled it, "The Witness." Later that night, Maya received an anonymous email. Subject line, "Saw you in the ballroom. I think I can help." No name, just a forwarded screenshot of one of the settlement emails she had seen earlier this time, with the blacked-out name visible. It read, "Sarah Chun, settlement. $75,000. NDA enforced. Incident. Hotel conference. 2021. Beneath the image, a single line. She's ready to talk, but she's scared. Maya's fingers hovered over the keys. The walls around Zahir were beginning to crack. Maya was on the train to Manhattan when the video went viral again. She hadn't meant to check. Her plan had been simple: get to Clara's gym, push through leg day, then meet Yara and Jamal to finalize details for the Riverside job. But habit pulled her thumb toward the red YouTube icon as she scrolled through her phone. And there it was, a reposted video titled, "The Cleaning Lady in the Red Dress Scandal. Full story, new footage." Uploaded less than 6 hours ago. Already at 1.2 million views. Maya tapped it, and the screen filled with the now familiar scene. Zahir's smirk. The red dress on the mannequin. The champagne sloshing. The glass flying. Her head turning at the last second. Then, new footage. Someone in the crowd had caught her expression just after the impact. The sharp turn of her jaw. The blood at her temple. The silence in her eyes. A voice off camera murmured, "She's not crying." The comments were endless. "This man should be arrested." Now, who still talks to women like this in 2025? The strength in her eyes. Chills. "Has anyone found her? I want to donate to her legal fund." She didn't scream. She stood. Respect. Maya's heart beat faster, not out of fear but something closer to awe. The world was watching. And this time, they weren't laughing. At the gym, Clara was waiting with a towel and a frown. "You're late." "I know," Maya panted. "The video's back, with new footage." Clara blinked. "You okay?" "Yeah, it's different now. People are paying attention." Clara handed her a jump rope. "Then let's make sure you're strong enough to hold that attention." The workout was brutal. Clara doubled the reps, added more core work. Maya pushed through, sweat soaking her hoodie, her lungs burning like fire in her ribs. When she dropped to the floor for the final plank set, she wasn't just holding herself up, she was holding the weight of something bigger. A movement. That afternoon, she met Yara and Jamal at a small co-working space in Chelsea. They took a private booth in the back, soundproof walls, a heavy glass door, and just enough light to make it feel like a confessional. "We're almost ready," Yara said, tapping a tablet. Jamal's secured access to the lawyer's building. Saturday morning, 4 a.m. He'll be out of town. "Alarm codes?" Maya asked. "Disabled between 3:45 and 4:15 for weekly housekeeping." We slide in, Copy the cabinet contents. Slide out. And if something goes wrong? Jamal leaned in. Then we don't make it to Sunday. They all fell silent. Maya opened her backpack and placed her phone between them. I took these photos last week. From Zahir's tablet. Emails. Transfers. Contracts. One's from the Sarah Chun settlement. Yara's eyes narrowed. Wait, you said Sarah Chun? She's the one from the hotel in 2021, right? She was a rising star. Got buried in HR for turning him down. I got an email last night. No name, but it had her settlement contract. No redactions. She's ready to talk. Yara looked stunned. If she breaks the NDA, she risks a lawsuit, she murmured. Unless, Maya said, we make sure what she says doesn't come from her alone. We speak as one. Her story becomes ours. All of us. Jamal gave a low whistle. You're building an army. I'm building a wall, Maya corrected, so none of us ever have to stand alone again. That evening, Maya returned to her apartment to find Arya sitting upright in her wheelchair, sketchbook open, tongue pressed between her lips as she scribbled something in colored pencil. Hey, Maya said gently. You're up late. Arya looked up, eyes bright. I drew you something. She held it up. It was a picture of Maya in a long red coat, standing on a stage, holding hands with 4 other women. Above them was a crowd with phones, flashing lights, and painted in bold purple letters, She won. Maya blinked, caught off guard. You think I'm going to win? Arya tilted her head. You already did. Maya bent down, hugged her tight. Thank you. No matter what happens, Arya whispered, just come back. Don't disappear again. I won't, Maya promised. Not this time. At 9:47 p.m., Maya's phone buzzed. A Twitter notification. Breaking. Woman in viral red dress scandal identified as Maya Williams, a former fashion student at Parsons. Anonymous source claims she's building a legal case against billionaire Zahir Al-Mansouri. Maya stared. Then, a second alert. Fox 5 News, CNN, BuzzFeed, Jezebel. Her name was trending. She braced herself, opened the comments. She's a queen. About time someone took him down. She was a student? Wow. Zahir better lawyer up. Maya Williams, we're with you. Endes. For the first time, her truth wasn't being shouted into silence. It was echoing. She picked up her sketchbook, flipped to a blank page, and wrote in bold strokes, Saturday, 4 a.m., Riverside Drive. Underneath, she added, he built his kingdom on shame. We will tear it down with truth. 3:41 a.m. The city was asleep mostly, except for the street sweepers humming through Riverside, the occasional honk from a restless cab, and 3 shadows moving swiftly through the back alley of a brownstone on the Upper West Side. Maya tightened the laces on her boots as Jamal crouched near the third planter on the right. His gloved fingers dipped into the soil and retrieved a brass key. Still where he always kept it, he muttered. Yara, dressed in black jeans and a thick hoodie, checked her watch. We've got 29 minutes until the system reactivates. Go time. Maya nodded, adrenaline pounding. Her hands didn't shake, not from fear. She was focused, steady, trained. Clara's months of workouts had not just reshaped her body. They had sharpened her will. The brownstone loomed above them, ivy crawling along the bricks, one dim exterior bulb casting long shadows. It didn't look like a fortress, but Maya knew better. Jamal unlocked the back door. It creaked, ever so slightly. Front cameras looped, he whispered. Motion sensors stay off till 4:15. They slipped inside. The air smelled like wood polish and legal ink. Neat, cold, silent. They moved quickly through the back hallway into the study. Jamal nodded toward the door at the end. Second floor, cabinets behind the painting. Maya and Yara climbed the stairs 2 at a time. At the top landing, Maya paused. There it was, a study with tall bookshelves, a massive oak desk, and a large oil painting of Zahir's father above the fireplace. Maya crossed the room and reached behind the canvas. Click. The panel gave way to reveal a steel filing cabinet built into the wall. 4 drawers, locked. Yara pulled a small pouch from her bag. I learned a thing or two in London, she said, kneeling beside the lock. 30 seconds. Maya kept watch by the window. From here, she could see the edge of Riverside Park. The city looked peaceful. But below that peace, Systems of control had pulsed for decades. Click. The drawer opened. Inside were dozens of thick files, labeled with codes and initials. Yara whistled low. Bingo. Maya pulled out folders and spread them on the desk. One read, NDA, Layla H. Incident, Marseille Conference. Another, Surveillance Logs, S. Chun. Yara photographed everything, methodically, file by file. I can't believe he kept all this, Maya muttered. He doesn't think anyone will ever touch him. Suddenly, Maya froze. There, tucked between a bundle of legal forms, was a flash drive taped to the folder's spine. She peeled it off. No label, she whispered. Take it, Yara said. We'll clone it later. A clock on the wall clicked loudly. 4:08 a.m. Jamal's voice whispered through Maya's earpiece Clara's idea. Shortwave radios. Wrap it up. 8 minutes. Maya reached for one final file thinner than the rest. No legal documents, just a single photo. Her. From the gala. Blurry. Mid-turn. Blood trickling from her temple. A note scrawled on the back. PR contingency. Emotional instability angle. Rumored criminal background. Verify. Maya's breath hitched. He was building a case against me. Yara glanced up. That means you're a threat. They packed everything fast: photos, scans, files tucked back in exactly where they'd been found. The cabinet was locked again. The painting rehung. 4:14 a.m. They slipped out the back door, retraced their steps through the alley, and reached Jamal's waiting car. Nobody saw them. Not yet. Back at Maya's apartment by 5 a.m., Yara plugged the flash drive into a burner laptop. Encrypted. But Clara, who had joined them with coffee and fresh bagels, leaned over the keyboard. I've seen this protocol before. Give me 20 minutes. Since when do you hack? Yara asked. Clara smirked. Since I married an IT guy who thought I wouldn't find out about his second family in Texas. She typed quickly. Lines of code filled the screen. 10 minutes in, the drive opened. Folders filled the screen. One labeled, Backup, Legal Fallout, Phase 3. Another, Assets, Reputation Control. And a third, Exposures, Insurance Policies. Inside that folder were photos candid, often disturbing, of people in compromising situations. Zahir's methods weren't just brutal, they were surgical. He didn't destroy people publicly. He dismantled them privately, one insurance file at a time. Yara's face paled. This is blackmail. Worse, Maya said. It's architecture. This is how he builds power. Maya opened a folder labeled Witness Profiles. Her name was there. So were Sarah Chun, Yara, Layla, Nancy, Jamal's daughter. Notes on each. Weaknesses. Family members. Debt. Therapy records. She scrolled further and stopped. There was a document titled, Williams, Contingency if Public Support Escalates. It read, Target credibility. Leverage daughter's medical records. Suggest instability. Possible fraud. Leak academic scandal from Parsons. Interview. With former professor available. Use softly. Maya's hands curled into fists. They were going to use Arya, she said quietly. As a weapon. Clara stood behind her, eyes dark. Then we use this as a shield. Yara copied everything to multiple flash drives. We go public in stages, leak what hurts, then drop the kill shot when they scramble. Maya looked around the room. 3 women, 1 laptop, a flash drive full of rot. It wasn't war anymore. It was demolition. At 8 a.m., Maya posted a single tweet. You humiliated me in public, but the truth? I found it in private. Number red dress reckoning number, not invisible. Attached was the first page of Zahir's exposure folder. Within 2 hours, it had 3 million views. By nightfall, a storm had begun. By the time the evening news rolled across American living rooms, Maya Williams was no longer the cleaning woman in the red dress. She was a headline, a call to arms, a question whispered across kitchen tables. CBS led with it. New evidence surfaces linking billionaire hotel magnate Zahir Al-Mansouri to a string of gag orders and alleged workplace misconduct. A flash drive leaked online appears to contain settlement documents surveillance notes, and blackmail materials involving multiple former employees including Maya Williams, the woman at the center of last month's viral gala incident. Even the conservative stations couldn't ignore it. Fox News posed it as a debate. CNN hosted a panel. Social media exploded. Red dress reckoning hit #1 worldwide. By 9:15 p.m., Maya's phone buzzed nonstop. Yara, it's out there. No going back. Mel, Clara, they're going to come after you. Sarah Chun, I'm ready. If we're burning it down, I want to hold the match. Even Jamal. My daughter just smiled for the first time in weeks. Maya stared at the screen and felt nothing. Not fear, not triumph, just silence inside. Like the moment before a storm, her apartment was still. Arya was asleep. The world outside had turned upside down, but in this small kitchen, with chipped mugs and humming radiators, it was still Wednesday. Until the knock came. 3 firm raps on the door. Maya's breath caught. She reached for her phone, heart pounding. Looked through the peephole. Clara. She opened the door. I told you they'd come after you, Clara said, stepping inside with a laptop under her arm. But I didn't say we'd let them win. At Clara's insistence, they relocated to a friend's law office downtown high-rise, steel desks, private access. The friend, a divorce attorney named Greg, had handled enough billionaires to know how dirty power really worked. You've got about 72 hours before this gets uglier, he said, sipping coffee from a Yankees mug. He'll deny, delay, distract. You think that first leak hurt him? That was a paper cut. If you want this to stick, you hit him where he can't cover it up. Where? Maya asked. Federal wire fraud, witness tampering. If you can tie those blackmail files to actual business decisions or show he crossed state lines with intent to suppress witnesses, it becomes a federal issue. We've got the flash drive, Yara said. You've got a match, Greg corrected. You still need the gas. The next day, Maya received an anonymous tip in her inbox. Subject line, he's panicking. Attached was a voice recording. Male voices Zahir and someone else. Zahir, I want her quiet. I don't care how. Unknown. She has the public. You can't kill that with a press release. Zahir, then bury her in court. Find her weak spots. That daughter, the school, the past. Unknown. You're running out of moves, sir. Zahir, then make new ones. I don't lose. Maya felt bile rise in her throat. This wasn't just a game to him. It was sport. She wasn't a person. She was an obstacle. Greg was livid. This changes everything. He's admitting intent. That's enough to trigger an investigation if we move fast. Clara nodded. Let's move. Within hours, Maya's team drafted a legal statement signed by 5 women and backed by audio evidence, file images, and physical documents. They submitted it to a nonprofit legal watchdog group, who in turn sent it to the Attorney General's office. They also leaked a sanitized version to the New York Times. Headline, exclusive. 5 women accuse billionaire Zahir Al-Mansouri of systematic abuse and retaliation. Subhead, leaked files suggest decade-long pattern of gag orders, financial coercion, and targeted smears. The internet caught fire. Zahir files trended alongside red dress reckoning. Maya's face appeared on magazine covers, op-eds, talk shows. For every troll comment, 10 others rose in support. But with the support came danger. Maya started receiving anonymous messages, thinly veiled threats. You should have stayed quiet. She'll suffer more than you. Watch your back, Red Girl. Arya's school was notified. Clara moved in for the week. The locks were changed. Greg set up a legal security protocol. But through it all, Maya never flinched, because it wasn't about her anymore. At a secret meeting in a borrowed church basement, Maya stood before the other women. Yara, Sarah, Nancy, Layla, Jamal's daughter. A few new faces, too. She spoke clearly. He thought we wouldn't find each other. That's how men like him survive. Divide, silence, shame. She held up the flash drive. But this is our voice. Applause. We're not here for revenge, Maya continued. We're here for reckoning, and it starts now. They all signed the statement together, one by one. A chorus of survivors. 3 days later, a federal investigation into Zahir al-Mansouri was officially opened. Stockholders began selling. Investors issued statements. 2 board members resigned. Several executives took leave. And Maya? She stood on the steps of the courthouse, wearing a simple red coat, not a dress, not a costume, but a symbol. A reporter shoved a microphone toward her. "What do you want, Miss Williams?" Maya looked him in the eye. "I want the world to know we were never invisible. We were just unheard. Now, we speak." And the crowd behind her erupted. The storm had broken. Zahir al-Mansouri's name was now permanently stained in search engines and press clippings. Articles poured in from every outlet: the New York Times, Washington Post, even international platforms. Television anchors debated him nightly. His empire began to fracture under the weight of decades of secrets clawing to the surface. But Maya knew something the public didn't. Powerful men never fall quietly, and Zahir wasn't done fighting. On Thursday morning, Clara slammed a tabloid on the kitchen counter. "You see this?" she hissed. Maya looked up from her oatmeal. Her eyes scanned the headline. "Who is Maya Williams really?" Leaked emails suggest a darker past. She picked up the paper. Photos of her at age 20, taken from a long-abandoned Facebook account. Quotes allegedly from an old professor at Parsons accusing her of academic dishonesty and emotional instability. Maya's stomach churned. "These are lies." Clara leaned in. "Of course they are. But they're strategic lies. You're not just the girl in the red dress anymore. You're the one who might actually bring him down. So now, he has to destroy your character." Jada called seconds later. "We're under a full smear campaign," she said. "Zahir's PR firm is working overtime. Half the sources don't exist. One of them claimed you stole from a hospital." "Unreal," Maya whispered. "And people believe this?" "Some will," Yara said. "But not everyone. You've got truth. We've got files. Stay steady." Meanwhile, Greg was on the phone with the Attorney General's office. "The investigation is real, Maya. There's now a federal team reviewing every document you provided, but we need to be patient. They don't move fast, especially when the accused